आगे पढ़ें. Let's read further about chapter 6 of the UN Charter. It is about specific settlements of disputes. Article 33 reads as Para 1. The parties to any dispute, the continuance of which is likely to endanger the maintenance of international peace and security, shall first of all seek a solution by negotiations, inquiry, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, judicial settlements, resort to regional agencies or arrangements or other peaceful means of their own choice. Para 2. The Security Council shall, when it deems necessarily, call upon the parties to settle their disputes by such means. Article 34 reads, the Security Council may investigate any disputes or any situations which might lead to international friction or give rise to a dispute in order to determine whether the continuance of the dispute or situation is likely to endanger the maintenance of international peace and security. Article 35, Para 1. Any member of the United Nations may bring any dispute or any situation of the nature referred to in Article 34 to the attention of the Security Council or of the General Assembly. Para 2. A state which is not a member of the United Nations may bring to the attention of the Security Council or of the General Assembly any disputes to which it is a party if it accepts in advance, for the purpose of the dispute, the obligations of specific settlements provided in the present Charter. Para 3. The proceedings of the General Assembly in respect of matters brought to its attention under this article will be subject to the provisions of Article 11 and 12. Article 36, Para 1. The Security Council may, at any stage of a dispute of the nature referred to in Article 33 or of a situation of like nature, recommend appropriate procedures or methods of adjustment. Para 2. The Security Council should take into consideration any procedures for the settlement of the disputes which have already been adopted by the parties. Para 3. In making recommendations under this article, the Security Council should also take into consideration that legal disputes should, as a general rule, be referred by the parties to the International Court of Justice in accordance with the provisions of the Statute of the Court. In Article 37, Para 1, should the parties to a dispute of the nature referred to in Article 33 fail to settle it by the means indicated in that article, they shall refer it to the Security Council. Para 2. If the Security Council deems that the continuance of the dispute is in fact likely to endanger the maintenance of international peace and security, it shall decide whether to take action under Article 36 or to recommend such terms of settlement as it may consider appropriate. Then Article 38. Without prejudice to the provisions of Articles 33 to 37, the Security Council may, if all the parties to any dispute so request, may make recommendations to the parties with a view to a specific settlements of the dispute. Chapter 7. Action with respect to the threats to the peace, breaches of the peace, and acts of aggression. Article 39. The Security Council shall determine the existence of any threats to the peace, breach of the peace, or act of aggression, and shall make recommendations or decide what measures shall be taken in accordance with Article 41 and 42 to maintain or restore international peace and security. Article 40 reads as, in order to prevent an aggression Article 40 reads as in order to prevent an aggravation of the situation, the Security Council may, before making the recommendations or deciding upon the measures provided for in Article 39, call upon the parties concerned to comply with such provisional measures as it deems necessary or desirable. Such provisional measures shall be without prejudice to the rights, claims, or positions of the parties concerned. The Security Council shall duly take accounts of failure to comply with such provisional measures. Article 41. The Security Council may decide what measures not involving the use of armed forces are to be employed to give effect to its decisions, and it may call upon the members of the United Nations to apply such measures. These may include complete or partial interruption of economic relationship and of rail, sea, air, postal, telegraphic, radio, and other means of communication, and the severance of diplomatic relations. Article 42. Should the Security Council consider that measures provided for in Article 41 would be inadequate or have proved to be inadequate, it may take such action by air, sea, or land forces as may be necessary to maintain or restore international peace and security. Such actions may include demonstrations, blockade, and other operations by air, sea, or land forces of members of the United Nations. Article 43, Para 1. All members of the United Nations, in order to contribute to the maintenance of international peace and security, undertake to make available to the Security Council on its call and in accordance with a special agreement or agreements, armed forces, assistance, and facilities, including rights of passage necessary for the purpose of maintaining international peace and security. Para 2. Such agreements shall govern the numbers and types of forces, their degree of readiness and general location, and the nature of the facilities and assistance to be provided. Para 3. The agreements shall be negotiated as soon as possible on the initiative of the Security Council. They shall be concluded between the Security Council and members or between the Security Council and groups of members and shall be subject to ratification by the signatory state in accordance with their respective constitutional process. Article 44. When the Security Council has decided to use force, it shall, before calling upon a member not represented on it to provide armed forces in fulfillment of the obligations assumed under Article 43, invite that member, if not, if the member so desires, to participate in the decisions of the Security Council concerning the employment of contingents of that member's armed forces. Article 45. In order to enable the United Nations to take urgent military measures, members shall hold immediately available national air force contingents for combined international enforcement action. The strength and degree of readiness of these contingents and plans for their combined action shall be determined within the limits laid down in the special agreements or agreements referred to the Article 43 by the Security Council with the assistance of the Military Staff Committee. Article 46. Plans for the application of armed forces shall be made by the Security Council with the assistance of the Military Staff Committee. Article 47, Para 1. There shall be established a Military Staff Committee to advise and assist the Security Council on all questions relating to the Security Council's military requirements for the maintenance of international peace and security, the employment and command of forces placed at its disposal, the regulation of armaments and possible disarmament. Para 2. The Military Staff Committee shall consist of the chiefs of staffs of the permanent members of the Security Council or their representatives, any members of the United Nations not permanently represented on the committee shall be invited by the committee to be associated with it when the efficient discharge of the committee's responsibilities requires the participation of that member in its work. Para 3. The Military Staff Committee shall be responsible under the Security Council for the strategic direction of any armed forces placed at the disposal of the Security Council. Questions relating to the command of such forces shall be worked out subsequently. Para 4. The Military Staff Committee, with the authorization of the Security Council and after consultation with appropriate regional agencies, may establish regional subcommittees. Article 48, Para 1. The action required to carry out the decisions of the Security Council for the maintenance of international peace and security shall be taken by all the members of the United Nations or by some of them as the Security Council may determine. Para 2. Such decisions shall be carried out by the members of the United Nations directly and through their action in the appropriate international agencies of which they are members. Article 49. The members of the United Nations shall join in affording mutual assistance in carrying out the measures decided upon by the Security Council. Article 58 says, if preventive or enforcement measures against any state are taken by the Security Council, any other state, whether a member of the United Nations or not, which finds itself confronted with the special economic problems arising from the carrying out of those measures, shall have the right to consult the Security Council with regard to a solution of those problems. Article 51. Nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right of individual or collective self-defense if an armed attack occurs against a member of the United Nations until the Security Council has taken the measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. Measures taken by members in the exercise of this right of self-defense shall be immediately reported to the Security Council and shall not in any way affect the authority and responsibility of the Security Council under the present charter to take at any time such action as it deems necessary in order to maintain or restore international peace and security. Chapter 8. Regional Arrangements. Article 52, Para 1. Nothing in the present charter precludes the existence of regional arrangements or agencies for dealing with such matter relating to the maintenance of international peace and security as are appropriate for regional action, provided that such arrangements or agencies and their activities are consistent with the purpose and principle of the United Nations. Para 2. The member of the United Nations entering into such arrangements or constituting such agencies shall make every effort to achieve pacific settlements of local disputes through such regional arrangements or by such regional agencies before referring them to the Security Council. Para 3. The Security Council shall encourage the development of pacific settlements of local disputes through such regional arrangements or by such regional agencies, either on the initiative of the state concerned or by reference from the Security Council. Para 4. This article in no way impairs the applications of Article 34 and 35. Article 53, Para 1. The Security Council shall, where appropriate, utilize such regional arrangements or agencies for enforcement action under its authority, but no enforcement action shall be taken under regional arrangements or by regional agencies without the authorization of the Security Council, with the exception of measures against any enemy state, as defined in paragraph 2 of this article, provided for pursuant to Article 107, or in regional arrangements directed against renewal of aggressive policy on the part of any such state, until such time as the organization may, on request of the governments concerned, be charged with the responsibility for preventing further aggression by such a state. Para 2. The term enemy state, as used in paragraph 1 of this article, applies to any state which during the Second World War has been an enemy of any signatory of the present charter. Article 54. The Security Council shall at all times be kept fully informed of activities undertaken or in contemplation under regional arrangements or by regional agencies for the maintenance of international peace and security. Chapter 9. International Economic and Social Cooperation. Article 55. With a view to the creation of conditions of stability and well-being which are necessary for peaceful and friendly relationship among nations based on respect for the principle of equal rights and self-determination of peoples, the United Nations shall promote a. Higher standard of living, full employment, and conditions of economic and social progress and development. B. Solutions of international economic, social, health, and related problems, and international culture and educational cooperations. And C. Universal respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedom for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion. Article 56. All members pledge themselves to take joint and separate action in cooperation with the organization for the achievements of the purposes set forth in Article 55. Article 57. Para 1. The various specialized agencies established by intergovernmental agreements and having wide international responsibilities as defined in their basic instruments in economic, social, cultural, educational, health, and related fields shall be brought into relationship with the United Nations in accordance with the provisions of Article 63. Para 2. Such agencies thus brought into relationship with the United Nations are hereinafter referred to as specialized agencies. Article 58. The organization shall make recommendations for the coordination of the policies and activities of the specialized agencies. Article 59. The organization shall, where appropriate, initiate negotiations among the states concerned for the creation of any new specialized agencies required for the accomplishment of the purposes set forth in Article 55. Article 60. Responsibilities for the discharge of the functions of the organization set forth in this chapter shall be vested in the General Assembly and under the authority of the General Assembly in the Economic and Social Council, which shall have for this purpose the power set forth in Chapter 10. Chapter 10 refers about the Economic and Social Council. About its composition, Article 61 explains. Para 1 states that the Economic and Social Council shall consist of 18 members of the United Nations elected by the General Assembly. Para 2. Subject to the provisions of paragraph 3, 6 members of the Economic and Social Council shall be elected each year for a term of 3 years. A retiring member shall be eligible for immediate re-election. Number 3. At the first election, 18 members of the Economic and Social Council shall be chosen. The term of office of 6 members so chosen shall expire at the end of 1 year, and of 6 other members at the end of 2 years, in accordance with arrangements made by the General Assembly. Para 4. Each member of the Economic and Social Council shall have one representative. About its function and power, Article 62, Para 1 reads as The Economic and Social Council may make or initiate studies and reports with respect to international economic, social, cultural, educational, health, and related matters, and make and may make recommendations with respect to any such matters to the General Assembly, to the members of the United Nations, and to the specialized agencies concerned. Para 2 states that it may make recommendations for the purpose of promoting respect for and observance of human rights and fundamental freedom for all. Para 3 refers that it may prepare draft conventions for submission to the General Assembly with respect to the matters falling within its competence. Para 4 it may call, in accordance with the rules prescribed by the United Nations international conferences on matters falling within its competence. Article 63, Para 1 reads as the Economic and Social Council may enter into agreements with any of the agencies referred to in Article 57, defining the terms on which the agency concerned shall be brought into relationship with the United Nations. Such agreements shall be subject to approval by General Assembly. Para 2. It may coordinate the activities of the specialized agencies through consultation with any recommendations to such agencies and through recommendations to the General Assembly and to the members of the United Nations. Article 64, Para 1. The Economic and Social Council may take appropriate steps to obtain regular reports from the specialized agencies. It may make arrangements with the members of the United Nations and with the specialized agencies to obtain reports on the steps taken to give effect to its own recommendations and to recommendations on matters falling within its competence made by the General Assembly. Para 2. It may communicate its observations on these reports to the General Assembly. Article 56, Article 65. The Economic and Social Council may furnish informations to the Security Council and shall assist the Security Council upon its request. Article 66, Para 1. The Economic and Social Council shall perform such functions as fall within its competence in connection with the carrying out of the recommendations of the General Assembly. Para 2. It may, with the approval of the General Assembly, perform services at the request of members of the United Nations and at the request of specialized agencies. Para 3. It shall perform such other functions as are specified elsewhere in the present Charter or as may be assigned to it by the General Assembly. About voting, Article 67 reads, Para 1. Each member of the Economic and Social Council shall have one vote. Para 2. Decisions of the Economic and Social Council shall be made by a majority of the members present and voting. Then about procedures, Article 68 reads as the Economic and Social Council shall set up commissions in economic and social fields and for the promotion of human rights and such other commissions as may be required for the performance of its function. Article 69. The Economic and Social Council shall invite any member of the United Nations to participate without vote in its deliberations on any matter or particular concern to that member. Article 70. The Economic and Social Council may make arrangements for representatives of the specialized agencies to participate without vote in its deliberations and in those of the commissions established by it, and for its representatives to participate in the deliberations of the specialized agencies. Article 71. The Economic and Social Council may make suitable arrangements for consultation with non-governmental organizations which are concerned with matter within its competence. Such arrangements may be made with international organizations and, where appropriate, with national organizations after consultation with the members of the United Nations concerned. Article 72, Para 1. The Economic and Social Council shall adopt its own rules of procedure, including the methods of selecting its president. Para 2. The Economic and Social Council shall meet as required in accordance with its rules, which shall include provisions for the convening of meetings on the request of a majority of its members. Chapter 11, Declarations regarding non self government territories. Chapter 11, Declaration regarding non self governing territories. Article 73. Members of the United Nations which have or assume responsibilities for the administration of the territories whose peoples have not yet attained a full measures of self-government recognizes the principle that the interests of the inhabitants of these territories are paramount and accept as a sacred trust the obligations to promote to the utmost within the system of international peace and security established by the present charter the well-being of the inhabitants of these territories and to this end. A. To ensure, with due respect for the culture of the peoples concerned, their political, economic, social, and educational advancements, their just treatment, and their protection against abuse. B. To develop self government, to take due account of the political aspirations of the people, and to assist them in the progressive development of their free political institutions according to the particular circumstances of its territory and its people and their varying stage of advancements. C. To further international peace and security. D. To promote constructive measures of development, to encourage research, and to cooperate with one another, and when and where appropriate, with a specialized international bodies with a view to the practical achievements of the social, economic, and scientific purposes set forth in this article. And E. To transmit regularly to the Secretary General Secretary General for information purposes, subject to such limitations as security and constitutional considerations may require, statistical and other informations of a technical nature relating to economic, social, and educational conditions in the territories for which they are respectively responsible, other than those territories to which Chapter 12 and 13 apply. Article 74. Members of the United Nations also agree that their policies in respect of the territories to which this charter applies, no less than in respect of their metropolitan areas, must be based on the general principle of good neighborliness, due account being taken of the interest and well-being of the rest of the world in social, economic, and commercial matters. Chapter 12 refers about International Trusteeship System, Article 75. The United Nations shall establish, under its authority, an international trusteeship system for the administration and supervision of such territories as may be placed thereunder by subsequent individual agreements. These territories are hereinafter referred to as trust territories. Article 76. The basic objectives of the trusteeship system. In accordance with the purpose of the United Nations laid down in Article 1 of the present Charter shall be A. To further international peace and security. B. To promote the political, economic, social, and educational advancements of the inhabitants of the trust territories and to their progressive development towards self-government or independence as may be appropriate to the particular circumstances of its territory and its peoples, and the freely expressed wishes of the people concerned, and as may be provided by the terms of each trusteeship agreement. C. To encourage respect for human rights and for fundamental freedoms for all without distinction as to race, sex, language, or religion, and to encourage recognitions of the interdependence of the people of the world. And D. To ensure equal treatment in social, economic, and commercial matters for all members of the United Nations and their nationals, and also equal treatment for the latter in the administration of justice. without prejudice to the attainment of the foregoing objectives and subject to the provisions of Article 80. Article 77, Para 1. The trusteeship system shall apply to such territories in that following categories as may be placed thereunder by means of trusteeship agreements. A. Territories now held under mandate. B. Territories which may be detached from enemy states as a result of the Second World War. And C. Territories voluntarily placed under the system by states responsible for their administration. 2. It will be a matter for subsequent agreement as to which territories in the foregoing categories will be bound under the trusteeship system and upon what terms. Article 78. The trusteeship system shall not apply to territories which have become member of the United Nations, relationship among which shall be based on respect for the principle of sovereign equality. Article 79. The terms of trusteeship for each territory to be placed under the trusteeship system, including any alteration or amendment, shall be agreed upon by the states directly concerned, including the mandatory power in the case of territories held under mandate by members of the United Nations, and shall be approved as provided for in Article 83 and 85. Article 80, Para 1. Except as may be agreed upon in individual trusteeship agreements made under Article 77, 79, and 81, placing each territory under the trusteeship system, and until such agreements have been concluded, nothing in this chapter shall be construct, construed in or of itself to alter in any manner of right whatsoever of any state or any peoples of the terms of existing international instruments to which members of the United Nations may respectively be parties. 2. Paragraph 1 of this article shall not be interpreted as giving grounds for delay or postponements of the negotiations and conclusion of agreements for placing mandated and other territories under the trusteeship system as provided for in Article 77. Article 81. The trusteeship agreement shall in each case include the terms under which the trust territory will be administered and designate the authority which will exercise the administration of the trust territory. Such authority, hereinafter called the administering authority, may be one or more state of the organization itself. Article 82. There may be designated in any trusteeship agreement a strategic area or areas which may include part or all of the trust territory to which the agreement applies without prejudice to any special agreement or agreements made under Article 43. Article 83, Para 1. All functions of the United Nations relating to strategic areas, including the approval of the terms of the trusteeship agreements and of their alteration or amendment, shall be exercised by the Security Council. Para 2. The basic objectives set forth in Article 76 shall be applicable to the people of its strategic area. Para 3. The Security Council shall subject to the provisions of the trusteeship agreements and without prejudice to security considerations avail itself of the assistance of the trusteeship council to perform those functions of the United Nations under the trusteeship system relating to political, economic, social, and educational matters in the strategic area. Article 84. It shall be the duty of the administering authorities to ensure that the trust territory shall play its part in the maintenance of international peace and security. To this end, the administering authority may make use of volunteer forces, facilities, and assistance from the trust territory in carrying out the obligations towards the Security Council undertaken in this regard by the administering authority, as well as for local defense and the maintenance of law and order within the trust territory. Article 85, Para 1. The functions of the United Nations with regard to trusteeship agreements for all areas not designated as strategic, including the approval of the terms of the trusteeship agreements and of their alteration or amendment, shall be exercised by the General Assembly. Para 2. The Trusteeship Council, operating under the authority of the General Assembly, shall assist the General Assembly in carrying out these functions. Chapter 13. The Trusteeship Council. About its composition, Article 86, Para 1 states as the Trusteeship Council shall consist of the following members of the United Nations. A. Those members administering trust territories. B. Such of those members mentioned by name in Article 23 as are not administering trust territories, and C. As many other members elected for 3 year terms by the General Assembly as may be necessary to ensure that the total number of members of the Trusteeship Council is equally divided between those members of the United Nations which administer trust territories and those which do not. 2. Each member of the Trusteeship Council shall designate one especially qualified person to represent it therein. About functions and power, Article 87. The General Assembly and under its authority the Trusteeship Council in carrying out their functions may A. Consider reports submitted by the administering authority. B. Accept petitions and examine them in consultation with the administering authority. C. Provide for periodic visits to the respective trust territories at times agreed upon with the administering authority. And D. Take these and other actions in conformity with the terms of the trusteeship agreement. Article 88. The Trusteeship Council shall formulate a questionnaire on the political, economic, social, and educational advancements of the inhabitants of each trust territory, and the administering authority for each trust territory within the competence of the General Assembly shall make an annual report to the General Assembly upon the basis of such questionnaire. About voting, Article 89, Para 1. Each member of the Trusteeship Council shall have one vote. Para 2. Decisions of the Trusteeship Council shall be made by a majority of the members present and voting. About procedures, Article 90, Para 1. The Trusteeship Council shall adopt its own rules of procedure, including the methods of selecting its president. Para 2. The Trusteeship Council shall meet as required in accordance with its rules, which shall include provisions for the convening of meetings on the request of a majority of its members. Article 91. The Trusteeship Council shall, when appropriate, avail itself of the assistance of the Economic and Social Council and of the specialized agencies in regard to matters with which they are respectively concerned. Chapter 14 is about Honorable the International Court of Justice. Article 92 reads as the International Court of Justice shall be the principal judicial organ of the United Nations. It shall function in accordance with the annexed statute, which is based upon the statute of the Permanent Court of International Justice. and forms an integral part of the present Charter. Article 93, Para 1. All members of the United Nations are ipso facto parties to the Statute of the International Court of Justice. Para 2. A state which is not a member of the United Nations may become a party to the Statute of the International Court of Justice on conditions to be determined in each case by the General Assembly upon the recommendations of the Security Council. Article 94, Para 1. Each member of the United Nations undertake to comply with the decisions of the International Court of Justice in any case to which it is a party. Para 2. If any party to a case fails to perform the obligations incumbent upon it under a judgment rendered by the court, the other party may have recourse to the Security Council, which may, if it deems necessary, make recommendations or decide upon measures to be taken to give effect to the judgment. Article 95. Nothing in the present Charter shall prevent members of the United Nations from entrusting the solutions of their differences to other tribunals by virtue of agreements already in existence or which may be concluded in the future. Article 96, Para 1. The General Assembly of the Security Council may request the International Court of Justice to give an advisory opinion on any legal questions. Para 2. Other organs of the United Nations and specialized agencies which may at any time be so authorized by the General Assembly may also request advisory opinion of the court on legal question arising within the scope of their activities. Chapter 15, about the Secretariat. Article 97. The Secretariat shall comprise a Secretary General and such staff as the organization may require. The Secretary General shall be appointed by the General Assembly upon the recommendations of the Security Council. He shall be the Chief Administrative Officer of the organization. Article 98. The Secretary General shall act in that capacity in all meetings of the General Assembly, of the Security Council, of the Economic and Social Council, and of the Trusteeship Council, and shall perform such other functions as are entrusted to him by these organs. The Secretary General shall make an annual report to the General Assembly on the work of the organization. Article 99. The Secretary General may bring to the attention of the Security Council any matter which, in his opinion, may threaten the maintenance of international peace and security. Article 100, Para 1. In the performance of their duties, the Secretary General and the staff shall not seek or receive instructions from any government or from any other authorities external to the organizations. They shall refrain from any action which might reflect on their positions as international officials responsible only to the organizations. Para 2. Each member of the United Nations undertake to respect the exclusive international charter character of the responsibilities of the Secretary General and the staff and not to seek to influence them in the discharge of their responsibilities. Article 101, Para 1. The staff shall be appointed by the Secretary General under regulations established by the General Assembly. Para 2. Appropriate staff shall be permanently assigned to the Economic and Social Council, the Trusteeship Council, and as required to other organs of the United Nations. These staffs shall form a part of the Secretariat. Para 3. The paramount consideration in the employment of the staff and in the determination of the conditions of services shall be the necessity of the securing the highest standards of efficacy, competence, and integrity. Due regard shall be paid to the importance of recruiting the staffs on as wide a geographical basis as possible. Chapter 16, about miscellaneous provisions. Article 102, Para 1 reads as: every treaty and every international agreement entered into by any member of the United Nations after the present charter comes into force shall, as soon as possible, be registered with the Secretariat and published by Para 2. No party to any such treaty or international agreement which has not been registered in accordance with the provisions of the paragraph 1 of this article may invoke that treaty or agreement before any organ of the United Nations. Article 103. In the event of a conflict between the obligations of the members of the United Nations under the present charter and their obligations under any other international agreements, their obligations under the present charter shall prevail. Article 104. The organization shall enjoy in the territory of each of its members such legal capacity as may be necessary for the exercise of its functions and the fulfillment of its purposes. Article 105, Para 1. The organization shall enjoy in the territory of each of its members such privilege and immunities as are necessary for the fulfillment of its purposes. Para 2. Representatives of the members of the United Nations and officials of the organization shall similarly enjoy such privilege and immunities as are necessary for the independent exercise of their functions in connections with the organization. Para 3. The General Assembly may make recommendations with a view to determining the details of the applications of paragraph 1 and 2 of this article, or may propose conventions to the members of the United Nations for this purpose. Chapter 17. Transitional Security Arrangements. Article 106. Pending the coming into force of such special agreements referred to in Article 43, as in the opinion of the Security Council enables it to begin the exercise of its responsibilities under Article 42. The parties to the Four Nation Declaration signed at Moscow, October 30, 1943, in France shall, in accordance with the provisions of paragraph 5 of the Declaration, consult with one another and as occasion requires with other members of the United Nations with a view to such joint action on behalf of the organization as may be necessary for the purpose of maintaining international peace and security. Article 107. Nothing in the present charter shall invalidate or preclude action in relation to any state which during the Second World War has been an enemy to any signatory to the present charter, taken or authorized as a result of that war by the governments having responsibilities for such action. Chapter 18. Amendments. Article 108. Amendments to the present charter shall come into force for all members of the United Nations when they have been adopted by a vote of two-thirds of the members of the General Assembly and ratified in accordance with their respective constitutional process by two-thirds of the members of the United Nations, including all the permanent members of the Security Council. Article 109, Para 1. A general conference of the members of the United Nations for the purpose of reviewing the present charter may be held at a date and place to be fixed by a two-thirds vote of the members of the General Assembly and by a vote of any 7 members of the Security Council. Each members of the United Nations shall have 1 vote in the conference. Number 2. An alteration of the present charter recommended by a two-thirds vote of the conference shall take effect when ratified in accordance with their respective constitutional process by two-thirds of the members of the United Nations. including all the present members of the Security Council. Para 3. If such a conference has not been held before the 10th annual session of the General Assembly following the coming into force of the present charter, the proposal to call such a conference shall be placed on the agenda of that session of the General Assembly, and the conference shall be held if so decided by a majority vote of the members of the General Assembly, by a vote of any 7 members of the Security Council. Chapter 19, Ratifications and Signature. Article 110, Para 1. The present charter shall be ratified by the signatory states in accordance with their respective constitutional process. Para 2. The ratification shall be deposited with the government of the United States of America, which shall notify all the signatory states of its deposit as well as the Secretary General of the organization when he has been appointed. Para 3. The present charter shall come into force upon the deposit of ratifications by the Republic of China, France, the United Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland, and the United States of America, and by a majority of the other signatory states. A protocol of the ratifications deposited shall thereupon be drawn up by the government of the United States of America, which shall communicate copies thereof to all the signatory states. Para 4. The states signatory to the present charter, which ratify it after it has come into force, will become original member of the United Nations on the date of the deposit of their respective ratifications. Article 111. The present charter, of which the Chinese, French, Russian, English, and Spanish texts are equally authentic, shall remain deposited in the archives of the government of the United States of America. Duly certified copies, therefore, shall be transmitted by that government to the governments of the other signatory states. In faith whereof the representatives of the government of the United Nations have signed the present charter, done at the city of San Francisco, the 26th day of June 1945. Then about stature of the International Court of Justice.